Back for segment number 2 here on the World Center of Broadcast Media. It's Lug Nutzz TV, of course, with the big man, Big Mark here, NFL insider, and, of course, now motorsports insider, motorsports fan, bigger motorsports fan than you would think here in the last couple of years. Here we baptized Mark by Nitro, of course, of the NHRA with Fast Jack Beckman, John Force, and the like. And now chiming in, this is one of the guys that raced this Saturday to 27 Irwindale speed trucks or Southwest Tour trucks, whatever they're calling them this year. But a guy who's been around, he's also been a broadcaster. This guy has been part of the NASCAR community, I guess we call him NASCAR tribe for the last little while. And Ron Nava, you have some opinions here. Dale Jr., is this the end of NASCAR by him leaving? NASCAR has got a lot of issues right now, and to lose their biggest name, this is something bigger than NASCAR was ready for.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys. I don't think this is the end of NASCAR. I think this is just a telltale sign of what's been happening for years and years with the convoluted rules and the segments and the stuff that the racers have to go through and the level of competition they have to maintain. I think the guys just burn out early. I think you're going to see, I honestly think you're going to see a trend of guys retiring early, just like Junior and Edwards and others, and
Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, perfect example. Gordon had plenty of years left in him, and it's a burnout, and it's not fun anymore. And when they rip the fun and the joy out of your passion,
who rips the joy and the passion?
I got to say, in my mind, it's Brian France directly, and I'm not a big fan of Brian France, and if you know anything about the inside, he started making bad decisions back in the early 2000s when they got rid of the Southwest Tour. You could just see what was going to happen, and those kind of decisions have snowballed and turned into, the rules package we have now. And, honestly, Brian, he would rather own a football team. I wish that guy would go buy his football team and let the people who love the sport run it.
No, he'd screw that up too if he had a football team.
Yeah, if you'd have listened to the last segment, Gordon took a pinata stick to Brian Prance and beat the holy crap out of him.
Well, Brian's a joke. His dad, his grandfather, they knew they built the sport from the ground up. I'm going to ask you a question right now. When you lose a guy like Dale Earnhardt Jr., right? I mean, this is a guy that people can argue he hasn't won a championship yet, but what he has meant to this sport is far bigger than winning a championship.
I absolutely agree 100%. When you lose those guys, Junior is not just a reminder of his father, Dale Sr., but it also represents a time when NASCAR was much more simple, much more easier to get your head wrapped around as far as the rules go. And it was a simpler time. It was man against man, manufacturer against manufacturer. And it's not that way anymore. It is so complicated that it's hard to watch. I have trouble watching.
It's brand because Ron, you know how it is. It's a business now. It's become, when you have Winston Cup, and it was a very different series. Then you have Nextel Cup for a very short period that was bought out by Sprint. Now you have Monster Energy. I personally think Monster Energy is a terrible fit for this sport. NASCAR drivers, NASCAR fans historically have been beer drinkers, guys that, they sit in the pits and they have tailgate and they have barbecue and moonshine and some great grub. Monster Energy is more tailored for action sports, and right now I know they got a lot of young kids, but they have very little personalities that are translating like a Tony Stewart does. The only guy I think that's going to save the sport now is Kyle Busch.
Oh, please. And I'm a big Kyle fan. And I think you're right. I think that Monster, while it will in some ways make it edgier, maybe a little more modern, they have
they're paying the bills, that's all.
And all that stuff. Yep. But we need that for the TV package. And NASCAR has done a lot of things wrong. They've done a lot of things right, and part of that is the TV package and working that angle. Safety, for example, better cages, soft walls, all that stuff is really crucial. But on the other hand, marketing-wise, they're killing it, man, and it's affecting us down at the local level, and it's going to continue.
What do you mean they're killing it? Help me out with that. What do you mean they're killing it?
Part of bringing new fans into the stands, in my opinion, is, again, it's that rawness. It's the local heroes going at it, battling, and you want to see those local heroes move up through the ranks. But it's so professional and clean and politically correct, you lose interest, and that interest lost on TV translates to fans in the stands.
Okay.
I don't care who you are.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think they care about fans in the stands right now? I'm going to tell you Brian France does not care about fans, because when you get billions of dollars given to you in one lump sum from a network, a television network with Fox, and then you have basically you look at NASCAR and say, we don't care. We own 70% or 68% of the track, so they don't care about the attendance at the track anymore. They've already been paid up front, and that's killing the rural tracks. That's killing the Saturday night short tracks like Irwindale, like Kern, and I think NASCAR is basically Brian France, because let's get this straight. In the National Football League, there are investors. It's a corporation. Major League Baseball, it's the same thing. You have a conglomerate, a bunch of investors. NASCAR is one family, and it's the France family. And as long as they're rich, they don't give a damn about the rest of the racers now that don't have the merchandising they used to have. They don't care about a lot of the things that are growing the sport from the ground up. And that's what's killing the sport.
I agree with that 100%. I think there are a lot of different things that are, affecting what happens, economy and all that other stuff. But you're absolutely right about the Francis. And I have been told in drivers' meetings for 20 years that this is not a democracy. Mm-mm. You do what you're told. If you don't like this sandbox, you get out and you leave.
And you know why that is? Because you can't build other tracks. See, in other sports, there's definitely other avenues and there's other places to go. In motorsports, in NASCAR, in American motorsports, stock car racing, if it's not the, of course, everybody loves that you got some tracks that are Bruton Smith owned. But most of these tracks are owned by ISC, which, let's be honest, that's NASCAR and Brian France. You're going to build your own tracks? No. That's why there's no union. That's why the owners have no leverage. That's why NASCAR is exactly what I coined it years ago. Brian France, if you're looking at me right now, you hickory smoke punk. It's the Moonshine Mafia right now. You are Tony Soprano with a shitty haircut.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think there's legions of us that agree with you, and a lot of people might be afraid. I've had calls from the boys of the beach. I had Mike Helton call me up and rip me a new one.
And Mike Helton is the president of NASCAR.
Yeah, and the boy's got some power. I'm here to tell you. When he talks to you, you listen. They got power, and
they hate me too. Wonder why.
There's a lot of people that hate you.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Ron Navo, I got about a minute before I'm going to break here right now. Let me ask you this. What's Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s legacy when he leaves? He hasn't won a championship, but a lot of guys in sports haven't won championships. What is Dale Earnhardt's legacy?
Gosh, you know what? I'm stumped. I don't know what to tell you on that. I honestly don't know what to say.
Is he the best NASCAR driver that hasn't won a championship in the last 20 years?
Yeah, the most popular, that's for damn sure.
I agree with you 100%, Ron, on that.
But he's won a lot of restrictor plate races where these cars have been close together. You couldn't put a credit card between bumpers right now, and you see what Dale Earnhardt Jr. has done. Is he going to go down in history as a guy that was a failure as a career, too much pressure from his father, or a guy that really was a great racer that just unfortunately didn't win a title?
I'm going to have to say number one. He just wasn't what his dad was, and people had hoped for. Kyle Busch is more taking that place, in my opinion.
I love you, Ron. That's exactly what I told him. I always believed that he was riding on his dad's coattails. However, he's good. He's good for NASCAR. He's a good person for the face of NASCAR, without a doubt.
I'm going to tell you when we get back. Ron Nava, I appreciate it. Ron Nava calling us here from Southern California again. One of the young guys now. It's turned into an older guy like me, who is without a doubt a great ambassador for local racing, for short track racing. He stepped into a truck last weekend at Irwindale because a young guy, had the flu. And he ended up getting in the truck and finishing second. I was really proud of this guy, seeing him pop out of the truck. So at the end of the day, Ron Nava, I appreciate it. And Southern California racing is better because of what you've done, not just because of you're on the track, but what you've done to promote it with your media, with your marketing company. Ron Nava joining us here, courtesy of our good friends at Seidner's Collision Centers, and that is in no way pummeling on you, Ron. I know you haven't crashed in a long time, but our good friends at Seidner's Collision Centers, log on to SeidnersCC.com to find a location near you, especially when Danica Patrick is in town. Our good friends, Seidner's Collision Centers. When we get back, we're going to talk NFL football, we're going to talk Major League Baseball, and we're going to talk a little bit of off-the-track stuff, too, that I feel like that has really led to what I feel is the demise of NASCAR and the rise of the National Hot Rod Association. More next, World Center of Broadcast Media, live from our Hollywood location here. It's Lug Nutzz TV.
Gil Harris.